All right, so let's go over the trade that we took this morning with gold. It was a very clean break and retest setup that we took with gold this morning. We took some long position. We started off the day with a quick direction for the day, which I did send you guys the analysis this morning. So if we go all up over here, you guys can see that I sent you guys the analysis at 9 in the morning. Pretty much, I was explaining to you guys that we had pretty much a nice reaction, or basically nice rejection and a reaction from this exact area of support, which is the main area of support from previous structure, right? So this is a higher time frame support structure, which you guys can see that price action did have a reaction from here, and this is going based all of November 2025. So price hasn't been into this, pretty much price hasn't been into this key level since November 2025, which pushed back all the way back towards this level. You guys can see how price perfectly had a nice bullish reaction from it, right? And if you guys look at the 4 hour, it was very simple. We had a clean 4 hour sweep of these lows, and then we all had a nice bullish structure breaking back towards the upside. Now, the key level that we were trading in this morning was basically this key level that was built up from the Asian session from yesterday. We have these highs here, which is 44.30, and we have these lows here, which is 43.50. We went over last earlier today that on the Asian session of last night, right? Price session pretty much had a nice closure here, which pushed price back towards the downside, right? Basically, we just broke underneath this area of support and just going based on all of this exact movement that happened throughout the entire week of last week. So in today's setup, what's very simple, like I explained to you guys, that we're gonna be looking for buy position as long as price session can give us a nice closure above this key zone, right? Which is this area of resistance, which is sitting at the 44.30. I also mentioned to you guys the sell position that we were gonna look for this morning as well, which was initially gonna be tapped at the 45.25 level right here, but notice how price just kind of had a weak rejection from 45.12, right? Barely missed it by a few points, and it did a very nice drop as we anticipated, right? And this was basically price session coming back towards these highs here to fill up the entire gap that happened yesterday market session open, right? Now, yesterday market session open, I as well told you guys that we could probably look for buys if we do manage to break above it, but obviously we failed it. And I'm initially still looking for price session to give us deeper pullbacks, right? Towards this exact key zone. This is one of my main areas of interest, right? So we have this zone here, and we also have this other zone that I would like to see price action to come back towards these areas, right? So that is something that we're looking at basically full time for this next couple of days. We might see it this week. We might see price coming towards this level, maybe even next week. Depends on how volatility is the market this week. If we're looking here at the daily time frame, again, we have very nice reaction from this one. So we might repeat the same pattern that happened here, right? So notice how we had a nice push, a nice drop, and then price session reclaimed price all the way back. We had a reaction from an order block. Now, if we look here on the daily time frame, same story. We broke underneath these lows, created a new low. Price session is still bearish. We're not 100% bullish, but we can definitely look for potential buy setups, which will be more of a counter trend trade based on 4 hour time frame, right? Obviously the goal is to see price action manipulate these major highs here, maybe this high around here, but maybe manipulate towards these highs so that we can get the push back towards the downside, right? So there's a lot of traffic that price can still clean up from here, right? So we just need a proper price action to build up, most likely break above these 4 hour structure and then start building up new highs, right? That is a key idea. Now, going into deeper of the analysis of today, right? We look here on the 30-minute time frame. We did notice that earlier we did have some economic news, which is this huge bullish candle, right? But notice how we just rejected towards these exact supply zone, right? So the idea that I had this morning, since we did have these type of bearish fair value gap, the goal was basically for price session to break above it. So if you guys look here on the 30-minute time frame, we had a nice bullish engulfing candle breaking above structure and also inversing above this 30-minute bearish fair value gap, right? So we had a nice inverse, a nice structure break above these highs here, which was already a good confirmation for us. Now, obviously, we're not going to be chasing price, so we're not going to enter price from here. We're going to wait for the pullback and the retest, and that's exactly what price session did. We got the pullback towards this level. If we come back here on lower time frame, right? This is exactly the zone that I focus on for my entry confirmations, right? So check this out. We have, first of all, a nice imbalance candle right here. right? So notice we got, let me just clean this up so you guys can clearly see. Notice how price pulled back, or we basically broke above. And remember, these imbalance zones over here are like magnets. Price likes to come back towards these levels so it can retest. And if it respects, then there is possibility that we're going to continue with the trend that price action originally had from, right? So from this exact structure, we did retest again another bullish fair value gap, which was basically all of this entire movement. So notice how price perfectly pulled back towards it. We respected these support, right? So respected, clearly, we broke above structure, perfect. We're just going along with the trend. Going here on the 5-minute time frame, you guys can see structure. So we have what? We have a high, we have a low, and then we have a higher high. Break above structure, cool. Now, we retested the structure, and we're retesting this imbalance, right? We're not gonna enter yet, right? This is not a zone that we want to enter, because notice how price pretty much kind of broke underneath, but the support here, this minor demands here from the New York session open was respected, right? Now, my confirmation from this exact trade, if we go here towards the notes that I have here, which is the first trade that I took, which was an inverse trade, right? So check this out. We were waiting for price to inverse above these 5-minute bearish engulfing candle, or my bad, bearish fair value gap, right? Which is this candle. So we got a nice pullback towards the imbalance. Price action respected the lows, and we got a nice inverse. So this inverse right here, which was basically the touch, the reaction, and the break of structure from lower time frame. So if you guys go here on the 1-minute time frame, you guys can see how price perfectly broke above these entire highs here and these highs here, right? And then we also came back. You guys gonna go a little bit more deeper into, price action. This is other imbalances, right? So going into the 5-minute time frame, we did notice that price inversed this, which is exactly the confirmation that I wanted. And on top of that, we did have a nice bullish engulfing candle closure. We took the buy position, perfectly broke towards the upside. Second entry, right? The second entry was a similar setup, right? But in this case, we're looking for even higher. This is another zone that I had marked up, which is another bearish fair value gap. So we had 2 bearish fair value gap that I was anticipating for price action to have a reaction, basically based on this initial move towards the upside. This one over here, we waited for price to inverse, right? So we waited for price to inverse on the second one. So if we go here back to the notes, this is another note that I have marked up here, which is the inverse of a bearish 5-minute time frame right here. So we had a 2 inverse setup based on, or basically adding up with the retest of the structure, which is exactly what we wanted. So we had an inverse. We disrespected this fair value gap. Price broke above. Got my bullish engulfing candle pattern entry signal. Took the buys. My stop loss was underneath these last lows over here. Perfect stop loss. We have another inverse, right? This was kind of risky. I did like the movement towards the upside, because overall I was still, my bias for the day was still bullish, right? I did like the break here, but I did not like how these 5-minute candle closed. This was pretty much a turn off candle within like 100%. If it would have closed exactly like it did here, I believe the setup would have played up even better. The probability would have been even higher. But this was just a candle that kind of got it but it wasn't basically a huge deal breaker, right? We look here on the 15-minute time frame, this candle here, we did reject these highs, which was another thing to be cautious about, but I was still, going along with the probability of the entire setup, right? So we took the trade. We noticed that price came back. I just waited for price to maintain itself above this exact key level and maintain itself above this inverse candle here, which is that's exactly what it did. We got a nice closure. I took my entry, price retested twice, and then we got the next candle that perfectly broke above. So this was the trade that I took. I was looking to enter a third position based off this imbalance, right? But notice how price, we retested it once. We had a nice bullish reaction from it, but we failed to break these highs. Price never broke above the highs. If we actually did break above these highs, then yes, I would have entered my third position and my stop loss would have been right here. We would have continued scaling up this entire trade, but that was not the case. Price failed to break above higher, and obviously we did have the reaction from this gap that happened earlier, or basically from the morning, or my bad, basically from the market open. I was waiting for a full tap towards the 25 for the sell-off, but it never gave us that, so we just ignored that trade. And that's basically the trade that we took this morning. It was very simple, which is basically reacting from the break of structure and reacting from all of this little context clue. So very simple trade. We did manage to secure a 1 to 2 risk to reward with the second entry, 450 pips. The second entry, or the first entry, we did over 700 pips at a 1 to 2 risk to reward. So in total, 4R for the day. I'm very happy with this setup here. Finally, we got some good trades, especially that we've been having a very challenging week. But very proud with this trade. I'm going to be trading maybe late Asia London session. We're going to have to see how price react towards these areas. So keep that in mind. So I'll see you guys on the next trade. Peace.